Come back to the much awaited, much dreaded for some, aka me, much anticipated for others, aka everyone who wants to see me cry about the Knicks hiring Tibs.
Should we tell?
Episode. I don't know if I got through the whole thing.
Should we reveal a little bit that this is
This is like our fourth. It's like our fourth attempt. This is like our fourth attempt at.
Okay. Well, we'll have to see. I'm thrilled that we're like a Tibs gang now, and you're either with us or against us. So stop being a self-hating fan, and just
not being a self-hating fan. I'm a loving fan. That's why I want the guy to just develop a team from 20 wins to 6 wins instead of the guy that needed to give up after getting 31 wins.
Grow up. You actually need to grow up. It didn't happen. Move on. Be a fan. And if he proves you right, then you're the one that can say I told you so to everyone, and you can be right. And you again.
You're pointing favorite Tibs. I need to grow up and be a fan. You're not actually telling me any reason that I should be a fan of Tibs.
Why I like Tibs. It's about him as a person.
I understand. Is he a better person than Kenny? Like everyone gusses over Kenny. You want me to read off the lane? I get the Knicks somewhere. What should I expect? If he's better than the Knicks?
Fucking situation, dude. Stop saying this. If you're listening to me, what I'm saying, dude, you have to take the nuances of the Wolves situation.
I'm taking the nuances.
You have to stop saying, oh, if it didn't happen here with the Wolves, why should I have the Knicks? Completely different situations with dude, like, oh.
Right. I'm addressing the nuances. I've addressed it.
I have to turn this on. I'm sweating.
There's no sizable improvement and a lot of decline from guys besides Wiggins declined each year, like in advanced stats. And he improved this year. So why are we hoping that with RJ it's different? Just because RJ tried. I'm saying just because
you're so in the numbers. You're so in the numbers for such a coaching is such a nuanced thing. Like
I didn't say it wasn't. I'm just saying what was
at the Tibs pod, the post hiring Tibs pod. We just couldn't get through the tiers. So
Mitchell Robinson learned under Kenny Atkins in the top of it in a vacuum, one player.
Yes.
What's wrong? That's a stupid.
It's just doing with Jared Allen. He's just doing it. It's a stupid thing. Where do you think he's a solid role player?
What do you mean, Taj Gibson?
So we're trying again now. What?
So I think you with what everyone's seen on Twitter, I think you deserve to start this one out. So
right. Let me start it off. Let me give my preliminary takes, because I just want to explain like my core principles. Like I feel like a lot of people are just making it out to be like you like Kenny, so you put down Tibs, which just isn't really the case. And also people telling me that like you just don't understand that what he did in Chicago was good, and you don't understand the president of basketball. Like I understand everything. All right, but let me just explain the reason why I am not a fan of this hiring. I mean, really, I wasn't a fan of Tibs in Minnesota. Like I was never really a fan, and just in general, like as to my core, I'm like never gonna be a big fan of like a retread coach, someone where like you have to hope they adapt, and then Tibs is literally a guy who this is a podcast that happened between two Minnesota Timberwolves fans, literally just 3 years ago, being like, I think Tibs will adapt with us. So that's the other thing. It's like it's one thing to talk yourself into someone adapting, but like we're literally hoping he adapts. And then the other thing is like again, my biggest concern with Leon Rose, which I tweeted out the day he was hired, was essentially like, look, I don't know anything about Leon Rose, but like obviously the concern here is he's gonna favor like his CAA buddies over what's best for the team. And obviously Tom Thibodeau is not some unqualified crook. Like again, this is let me say like this man he's a Hall of Fame coach. Like there's not really a lot of bad per se, like. So but I'm just saying that let me say like I think if Leon Rose was not the GM, if he was not someone who if Leon Rose and World Wide West have not had a relationship with Tibs for years, I don't even think he would have gotten an interview. Because like again, like there's been a lot of openings and no one has showed any interest. And like it's just like that's really what it comes down to for me. It's not that like I think Tibs will be the worst coach of all time. It's just like everyone hated it with the Ringer, what Roger Sherman said, but it's like kind of true. It's just like to me, it's just like an uninspiring hiring.
Tell me why. I'm gonna take the convert. You're bringing up the Ringer, right? I'm gonna take us back to the yesterday video between Kevin O'Connor and Chris. So basically, I view this as you are Roger Sherman, and like
I'm the Sherman. That article sucked, but like the principles were kind of like correct.
I don't think so. I mean, for you, sure, but like, let me finish here. So, in terms of the media and it's really this narrative that Tibs is a bad coach that has
I
been
literally
spread.
just said I didn't say
I'm just saying, like, take everything aside, right? Take everything, everything of him being a Pobo at Minnesota and his rotations, all that aside. What Chris Vernon said, which really resonated with me, is that anytime you go into a game with Tibbs as the coach you're facing, you know that he is going to be as prepared, if not more prepared, than any coach in the league, right? And that's something you will never have to worry about with him, is knowing that every game you go into, there's a level of preparation that has been done that we have not had. Fizdale was not a grinder. We haven't had a grinder as a coach for a really long time. And what I say about the Leon Rose stuff is you're absolutely right, but there's way more pressure on Leon Rose than there is for Tom Thibodeau. I mean, this is Leon Rose's first soiree into running an NBA franchise, and he's to put all of his chips and rely on to Tibs for that success. In some ways, in some weird ways, gives me more confidence because like you have tons of look let's say me and you were running an NBA franchise, and we had a bunch of friends who wanted obviously to work with us. If anything, it's possible that you're going to be a little harsher on someone that's your friend in terms of being like, okay, like I know this person really well, I love them to death, but like I don't want to stake my success and rely on them for my legacy in this way. And so the fact that Tibbs is the guy, I think it speaks to more of who I feel he is as a person, which is why I'm excited as a coach when I tell you that. And obviously, I can find just as many issues with his Minnesota tenure as you can. Okay? Nothing really went that right. And I know you'll have a clapback for this, but I don't think there's a ceiling higher on that team than them being the 3 seed before Butler gets hurt. Just in terms of its team makeup and the Wiggins, Towns, Butler troika, like I'm telling you right now that to me seems to be the cap, and then it went to shit, and that's fine, and made a lot of errors, and Tibbs played a big role in that. But I don't think it's fair to be like, okay, he didn't succeed in Minnesota, and like you being like, okay, like he didn't develop the young players to the standard that obviously we would want in Minnesota. So why would we trust him with the Knicks? I mean, I in some ways, I don't know. I kind of view that as a wash, just that whole time. And obviously, some of it's his fault, but I think a decent amount, if not more than you think, is not his fault.
I get that. I just think, like, again, I mean, I spoke directly to the man, Kevin O'Connor, NBA, today. I asked him, like, what's the deal? He probably lit the Tibs hatred fire inside of me. Like in 2017, he infamously stated, "I would fire Tibs today," and then he had to walk it back. Kind of a little cowardly, honestly. But I'm not gonna back down. I'm not gonna walk it back. You know.
The vision. Now he sees the vision. Now he's a Tibs. He's a Tibs guy.
I think he just forgot the vision. I think he forgot the vision he had when Tibs was coach. Because again, I just don't think you could wash away all this stuff. Let me address the two. First off, let me just say that like yeah, Tibs again, he's very well prepared. Again, again, I'm not questioning like the work ethic or anything of Tibs. It's just that like all of that did not amount to much in Minnesota. Like that's again the issue. Like before going to Minnesota, like there's an article like he rewatched, like it said he rewatched every single game.
Yeah.
I mean, every single game didn't make sense. I guess it's just that season. Like he's a grinder. Like I'm not denying the grind. Like again, like everything they say about Tibbs is true. Like he loves the game. Like the man is literally married to the game, never been married to like a woman, and like he loves the game. Like no one is denying that. He's objectively like a smart basketball mind. But again, I just wouldn't just like in Minnesota. I get all the factors. I understand Andrew Wiggins and Karl Towns are little baby boys, and I understand that he had a lot of stress on his poor boo-boo from like giving Andrew Wiggins $160 million. I was getting to him, but I just still don't think any of the coaching was so impressive. I mean, I'll go into the first year in a second, which everyone for some reason forgets about. But just addressing the 2017-18 magical one day of being the third seed, like again, it was a barely 2 days, and like they were not the third seed that long, and they were it by like half a game or something. Like, it was not some like whatever. I'm not trying to like they were the third seed. They were on a good winning pace with Jimmy Butler. But again, like my point is that Jimmy Butler is like what?
No, but I'm saying like it's easy to discount that, and I didn't even think about that till yesterday. But that injury, regardless of the talent, right? There are tons of teams in the West with tons of talent. It is absolutely impressive to have that team in third.
It's not bad, but like there just wasn't anything
with home court.
There's nothing from that that screams to me that's impressive. What? There's nothing from that that screams impressive coaching. Like someone
third in the West is not bad. Look what we've seen from. But look what we've seen from Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, and what did we see the year before they had Jimmy Butler? Jimmy Butler literally in like again some stat I saw the other day. I didn't even realize it. Whatever stat expected wins added. They didn't know there's a thing. They said the year before Jimmy Butler, like in 2017 with the Bulls, he added an expected 31 wins to the Bulls. And then the next year, it was like the same, 31 or 32 to the Timberwolves. Like, Jimmy Butler is an immensely impactful player. And then you put that next to Karl Anthony Towns. Yeah. Like, again, Jimmy Butler the year before won 41 games with a washed Dwayne Wade and Rondo. Like, and again, like as I'm saying, what do you
have to say about, like, Philly? So, like, you can't just go be like, okay, Jimmy Butler is one of the most impactful players in the 31 wins. And then he plays on Philly. He goes from Minnesota to Philly and obviously did not.
Yeah, but they went to the finals, and they've been way worse this season, the Sixers. Like, they were much better with Jimmy Butler. And then this year, the Heat, they got, like, 20 games better, too, from, like, last year. They went from, like, a 40-win team. Like, I'm just saying, Jimmy Butler is a very impactful player. Like, he was the year before. He's been after. Like, he's very, very good. And, like, again, like, just even then. Like, again, I'm not saying he was, like, Tibs sucked because, like, they only won 48 games. But, like, they were the worst, like, defensive team. And, like, again, I understand that, like, it's not easy to make a good defense out of Towns, and no one has really done it. And Tibs has probably gotten closer than anyone. But, like, he was still he still wasn't helping them, wasn't benefiting them. He put Towns in ice, which is, like, the worst situation for, like, the slowest, worst reacting, like, big man in the league. So, like, again, like, I understand the circumstances, but I don't even think I don't think there's any argument he maximized that team. And if you watch those Timberwolves games and you look at, again, like, more information keeps coming out, like the expected, like, efficient field goal percentage of, like, those teams, like, it was not high. And again, you can't say, like, he sucks because they had a fourth team in offensive rating, but, like, I think it is easily arguable that, like, a lot of that was probably just from giving Towns and Butler the ball a lot, which isn't necessarily a bad system, but also, like, again, Towns has had his best offensive season without him. Wiggins.
I understand, but to think that, like, for a triad of columns, young budding stars, whatever, for them to have such horrible chemistry and horrible relationships with each other, and to still be in a position to be the 3 seed in the West, like, there is something going on there in the coaching room that is positive, and, like, you have to acknowledge there's something there that he has a positive influence on, right? Like,
if we're arguing that, like, Tibs was able to overcome, like, the locker room troubles, it literally blew up, like, the next year too. Like, I don't know. I mean, again, that Timberwolves team was literally projected to win, like, 48 games, and they would have won over it if Butler stayed healthy. But again, I don't know why everyone brushes over this. Jimmy Butler, like, definitely getting hurt was 100%, like, I mean, you can't say it was solely because of Tibs. It was definitely an added part of it. Like, that's, again, why they won so much. He was playing Butler and Tibs so, I mean, Butler and Towns so much leading up to the injury. He played like I don't have the exact thing in front of me, but he played like 37 minutes per game for like the first whatever games. I don't know if you remember, he like missed the All-Star game like randomly, even though he was like healthy, just to, like rest. And then coming back, the dude played 39 minutes per game over 10 games and immediately had a non-contact knee injury. Like Thibs is the reason why Butler had a knee injury. And again, like I just don't find it that impressive to win 47 games while playing Jimmy Butler and Karl Anthony Towns a lot. But again, but again, obviously, but that's the same point. Like it's not bad to only have won 47 games, though. Again, like to do that with riding those guys isn't that impressive. But and not be shooting threes, not being improved the defense, like, but wait, what was my train of thought? Oh, here's my point. That even if my argument is fine, like he was, like even if you want to say fine, maybe he didn't maximize that team, but he did good with them. The point is the Knicks, like you said, a lot of this falls on Leon Rose, but right now there's like, so I mean that's kind of the thing. Like all my Tibs whining, like if the Knicks have a good team, they'll be good. Like if you put good defenders around him, you give workable guys and people who don't have bad attitudes, like the Knicks will be good with Thibs. Like he's not Jason Kidd. He's not gonna hold back a team and make them bad. But that's the case with like most coaches. They're not gonna actively make a team worse. I just don't think he maximized that team even when they were that good. And then, but again, the point is, even if you want to say he does do well with good talent, the Knicks don't have good talent. So let's go to the year before, which led to the Jimmy Butler trade to begin with. They won 29 games with Sam Mitchell in 2015-16. Karl Towns Rookie of the Year, Wiggins second year, Levine third year. They had Rubio. Next year, all those guys come over. They add Chris Dunn. They still have Gorgie Jang, who'd been playing solid. They have Zach LaVine, Andrew Wiggins, Karl Towns, Ricky Rubio, Nemanja Bjelica. It's a lot of good young talent who all should be progressing. They went from a 29-win team to a 31-win team. Their offensive rating went from 12th to 10th, and their defensive rating from 28th to 27th. So there were slight improvements, but again, not really. Like that's kind of the point. That's why they traded for Jimmy Butler, because after a disappointing season of not being able to develop talent, which again is way better than the Knicks currently have. Even if you want to question some of their mentalities, I don't think you question all of them. If you want to question some of their mentalities, like that's what led to the Jimmy Butler trade. He lost patience after not being able to develop those guys. Maybe if he stuck with them, maybe he would have if he stayed with it for longer than a year. But like again, this is my point. There's nothing too enlightening about what we just saw in Minnesota. Again, I think it's relevant because it just happened. And again, let's go back to like Chicago and Boston. Like again, I mean, we discussed this on the previous Lost Pod. Like Tom Thibodeau has like an extensive player development history, and like it's insane crap. Kobe, Yao Ming, literally plagiarizing
okay.
you. So you can say it if you want.
And I get mad at you for this. You cannot not give him credit for Derrick Rose in any way when he had the youngest MVP in NBA history.
I'm not giving him credit. Again, everything he did in Chicago, it was impressive. But again, the point remains that the stuff that made that Bulls team successful, like the ice defense, it just does not, and like the stuff that worked then would not work as well today, and hasn't. And Tibs just hasn't shown that much of a willingness to adapt from that. So I think it's just again, I'm just saying we're hoping he adapts again in New York when he didn't really show much signs of that in Minnesota. So yeah, I mean again, he's had a ton of success with player development. But outside of Jimmy Butler, which again was a while ago, all those guys, not to discount it, because again, you develop who you develop. It's very rare he's had to develop. It's not like the Knicks have Karl Anthony Towns. We don't have Derrick Rose. We don't have guys. Most of the guys he took over were already coming from a good place. Derrick Rose was an all-star before he got to Tibs. He was a 22, 21-year-old all-star his second year with Vinny Del Negro. And we don't like Vinny Del Negro. So I'm not saying that Tibs making I'm not saying an MVP is an expected rise.
You can't call him Vinny Del Negro.
What?
You can't call Tibs Vinny Del Negro.
I'm not. The poor Vinny Del Negro. I don't know what his coaching record is, but I feel like he's always like his last team. He like won like 57 games with the Clippers, and then like they then he's like never had any interest again. Because again, there's more to the game than wins. What's my point? Like again, I'm not discounting any of Chicago and stuff, but I'm just saying that this Knicks situation is not a scenario he's had success with developing a team of scrubs from the ground up. And he tried doing that in Minnesota like 3 years ago with scrubs, well, not scrubs, like pretty good prospects. Like everyone was like, he's gonna fix Wiggins, he's gonna fix Cat. It didn't happen. So with less talent, I'm just not expecting that to happen.
Yeah, but I believe in him in his core of just who he is as a coach, and I just truly think he'll figure it out. I think having such an ally in the front office, someone who can alert him of things coming down the pipe and things that maybe he should look out for that he would not be able to kind of deal with in other scenarios. I think having that guy looking out for him, but also holding him accountable and making sure that he doesn't.
That's kind of
what?
Like that. He may not hold him like we don't really know what that relationship is going to be. Like it is the first time Thibs and Rose have been like Thibs has had a front office member he's buddy with, but like it's not like we know like if Thibs isn't a good coach and we're empowering him, he's like not a bad coach, but
used to be this man's agent, and what happened, and the reason you do not get to be such a powerful, renowned agent such as Leon Rose without really being able to directly communicate and discuss sometimes tough things. And a great point in terms of something I think Chris Vernon or KFC said on that video. But during that Minnesota stuff, Leon Rose was repping Thibodeau and Karl Anthony Towns, okay? And so obviously, if it was a situation in which Thibodeau just had fucked it up so royally that the onus was all on him, I think it's possible that it'd be a very different situation right now. But the fact that Leon Rose was as present throughout that whole ordeal as anyone, I'm going to trust him that he's making this decision with way more information than we could even fathom having. And that's where my sense of trust.
Well, again, I'm not really like concerned about the Towns stuff at all. Like again, I'm acknowledging that like Towns is a big baby and Thibs maybe not getting through to him like isn't a mark on Thibs. But again, the other issue is that it wasn't just Towns. Like again, that Krasinski article, like it was so like so many people were upset. It was like communication errors. Like maybe that was because he was so focused on being Pobo, but like it was like Jang complaining about minutes and feeling disrespected. Tyus Jones, Jeff Teague speaking up for Tyus Jones, Jamal Crawford leaving, Imana Bjelica almost leaving the entire NBA. Though I mean I don't know if that was entirely the Thibs, but I mean he flourished after like that. I mean again just like I don't think. Like, my argument against Thibs is not that he's, like, a fear-mongering, like, asshole that everyone hates. I just from what we've seen, and I just don't think he is the best man for this job. And even if, like, we do all of a sudden, like, pull some Shane Hooligans to have, like, a team where we have Butler and Towns, which I don't see the path for that right now, like, I still then don't even think he's the best at maximizing that roster. Again, just, like, my philosophy is like I want to get ahead. I want to find someone to get the nooks and crannies and get ahead. And Thibs is still a guy you have to hope adapts in a lot of ways. It's
I agree with you. But like I'm just letting you know, there's just as much risk in us hiring someone like Will Hardy or Ime Udoka or Jamal Mosley. And I'm not telling you I wouldn't rather do that. Like there are guys like I'd love to have Ime Udoka as our coach. I really like Will Hardy. I think Jamal Mosley's gonna be a great coach one day. But there's just as much inherent risk with going with a guy like that in search for our own Taylor Jenkins or someone like that.
Yeah, that's kind of the point Chris Vernon said about Taylor Jenkins. Like, the Grizzlies did not the Grizzlies are someone I like to cover. The Grizzlies did not interview Tom Thibodeau, as far as I know. They went with an unknown guy. Not every unknown guy is going to work out. Like, talking about, like, Bulls-Wolves relationships. Fred Hoiberg was, like, the prototypical guy that like is supposed to be the new fun young guy, and that really didn't work out. Like it doesn't really work out. But I just think I would still just that's the thing. I would rather take a chance on a Taylor Jenkins than go back and retread and hope that Tibs adapt. We have to hope Tibs adapts again. That's the concern. You said the other day. I mean, you said it on the last time. It's like, Steve Clifford and Magic. No one would have, no one would have necessarily thought Steve Clifford would have been great for the Magic after Frank Vogel sucked.
And he has.
Yeah, and Steve Clifford's been great, and also Steve Clifford's been talking to Tibbs, so maybe he's rubbed off on him. But again, Tom Thibodeau was, before his Wolves stint, was spending time with the Warriors and Rockets. Again, this is the thing. It's all this stuff has happened. So I think there is a decent amount of risk, because again, we've heard all this talk before.
There's risk in all aspects of it, but I'm just saying I think you need to put less of a magnifying glass on the Timberwolves tenure. I almost think it was a more dysfunctional situation, and we would put him in New York, and I think that's pretty clear in my mind how dysfunctional of a situation that was in Minnesota. Also, I don't know, just think about that. I know we are, but him being the Pope makes a big difference in terms of dynamics with the players, knowing that your coach is the one that has final say on all personnel, making sure he was bringing guys in who he obviously played favorites to. I mean, and that just comes with, I don't think really any coaches in the league should have president of basketball operations power.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean?
They shouldn't, but again, you look at a guy, again, the comparison I'm brings up is Doc Rivers and how he, I guess, improved after he was relieved of his stuff. But even with Doc Rivers, it was never you had a hope he took a year hiatus to adapt. Those Clippers teams were still very well coached and always top in offense and defense. Doc Rivers, I don't really think his coaching ever really declined to a set degree. And obviously, it's not like every Pobo coach is going to have the same mental toll or relationship as the next. But I'm just saying that I can't wash away the Timberwolves tenure just because Cat is a baby and and because he was Pobo, because that alone can't excuse his acts as a coach. If he held on to again, what I say is if he held on to Ricky Rubio and Pobo Tibbs didn't trade him for Teague, we'd probably be a lot more fond of the Timberwolves. He did. And again, Tibbs can't control that Andrew Wiggins and Jimmy Butler were a bad fit. But Andrew Wiggins still did so bad that year with them both and did not improve under Tibbs. You can discount everything. You can use all the factors to explain why Tibbs might have been as good as he was, but I still don't think there was anything so endearing about his coaching really at all. And again, this is a guy who built most of his success off his defense, which doesn't really work as much now. And he's obviously never, even though his offense have been they've normally been effective. It's just there's nothing so exciting about I don't mean to be Roger Sherman, be oh, if it was it's good but unexciting. I'm saying there's not really proof that he could make a good offense out of guys that aren't good. And again, that's a tough standard to hold guys to. But again, that's
Oh.
I'm just saying the Knicks suck, so you can't write off them theoretically not you have to hope that Tibbs is able to improve a bad team, which he hasn't really shown capable of, and he didn't in Minnesota.
As I've made clear, I am pro this hire. I think that they're I don't know. Obviously, I have trepidations about it, and I have areas where I'm just as doubtful as you. But I also see a lot of optimism just in who he is as a basketball figure, and I think that it's hard to go wrong with such what it seems to me in New York is the young players have been craving some form of person they can respect, look up to, who will hold them accountable, and who will also kind of just progress them in terms of becoming what it takes to be a real pro. And I think something that's like, for example, like I love Mitch. I will take Mitch over, honestly, all but 2 centers in the league, right? I'll say that. I'll take Mitch over all but 2 centers in the league for the next 10 years. But we're entering his 3rd season in the league, and he hasn't had or to really click that in mentally, and he hasn't been forced and coaxed into really getting into his more cognitive side of his game, whether that be just his positioning, whether that be his maybe, you know what, I'm not gonna jump to block this one, I'm not gonna bite on this pump fake, I'm gonna go straight up, or maybe in terms of just little stuff. And we can argue at this all we want, but I truly believe I trust Tibs with a guy like bring absolute best out of him. And with a guy who has that much potential, if Joakim Noah can finish 4th in MVP voting on a Tibs team, and because of whatever, we can call Joakim Noah incredible in the beginning of his career. We can also say Tibs helped get him one of the worst contracts in NBA history that we had to deal with. I think that just looking at what Mitch is lacking, it matches up well with even we can address all of Tibs' weaknesses, but what we can't argue some of his strengths, and Tibs' strengths match up pretty well with our 2 cornerstones, which is RJ and Mitch. And also, like, a guy like RJ, I think Tibs is a great coach for RJ. Just in terms of, we're going to be shitting our pants all the time thinking about him playing 38 minutes a game, okay? 39 minutes a game. But if you think that RJ won't absolutely improve way more than a guy like under Fizdale, even Mike Miller. Like, I love Mike Miller, and I think and hope he will stay on our coaching staff. But come on, like there's none of those. He does not command a locker room any close to the way that Tom Thibodeau does, and he doesn't have, I think, that extra step in reaching a player that a guy like Thibodeau. That's where I stand on it. That's kind of my closing statement. In terms of, I understand problems. I understand why you'd be doubtful. I get it. I don't think it's just you being a hater or a shit poster. I absolutely get it. But I still can be optimistic and hopeful about the positives that I see in him.
I mean, again, like I get all that. It's just, again, I'm just going off recent history, and like stuff can change. Like Tibs can adapt overnight. It's just like, from what we saw in Minnesota, there just was nothing endearing. Like I don't know. Like, I mean, again, the Minnesota talent was better. Even if it was worse suited for, like, personality wise, like, it was still pretty good. Like Gorgie Jang, like, declined under him. Like, that's not necessarily a guy like Gorgie Jang and Chris Dunn are not really guys you would say like are like you can't say those guys are people who are just like defensive liabilities who don't want it or whatever. Like you could maybe say for Wiggins and Cat. Like, that's just my concern. Like, we're kind of in the same position as Wolves fans, and we're hoping. And, like, again, Tibs, he definitely cares. Like, it is hard to say he's gonna come out and run ice and do stuff again. But again, even if he does show a willingness to adapt, I just don't know if you can assume it's gonna be great. And again, it's just like, I mean, not to bring it back to Kenny, I want to just keep it on mostly Tibbs, but it's like I just don't really get why you wouldn't just go with Kenny, who, like, in recent history just did, like, again, the like, Knicks straight up just need a Nets rebuild, or the equivalent of that. So I just don't see a reason to go with that over like, I don't know. I'm just saying that what the Knicks need from Tibbs, he hasn't done. And, like, when he did a version of that recently, he didn't. So, like, I don't know. I just don't see the appeal of going for that after he said, all right, you want to wrap things up with a per 36 Tibbs players?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So
I'll go right from the start. First, like I said, I'll go. I changed my mind. Kirk Heinrich.
That's like the Frank. That's like the Frank version we want. Like, that's what we want, Frank. We want him to be Captain Kirk. That's a solid
Yeah.
solid Tibs player. And I get that there's like a player who wasn't a first overall pick that did pretty well under Tibs. I think mine. I'm gonna do the same one I did last time, which which I don't know. You could argue this is a point against Tibs maybe that he was starting at all. But I'm going with my man Bogey, Keith Bogans, on that 62 win Bulls team to maybe make it seem better 10 years from now when he said they won 62 games. Tom Thibodeau started Keith Bogans all 82 games to average 4.4 points in 18 minutes. Like, quite possibly, at least statistically, like the worst starter, at least on a good team, like maybe ever. The 3-and-D guy that couldn't really shoot or D that well. Meanwhile, you had Kyle Korver on the bench. Like, I don't really know why he had Keith Bogans in there. But they don't even have him in I hate 2K. Like in 2K, like you can't even. They don't even have Keith Bogans or Ronnie Brewer. They just have Kyle Korver starting. But I'm going Bogey. I think he's on the Knicks staff still right now. So that's a reunion, I guess. Maybe in the Westchester Knicks. I'm not.
I have to close it out right now, but I am looking it up. Yeah, he's in the single. It's pretty cool. Hey, what? Oh, I wonder if he's. I bet I could see Keith Bogans on the Tibs staff. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It'd be pretty cool. All right, so I'm pretty swayed on Tibs now because we got Tibs and Keith Bogans back together. You got like that alone right there. That's probably that was a secret to the 62 win Bulls right there. It was Keith Bogans. It wasn't MVP Derrick Rose. It wasn't any of those guys. It was just Keith Bogans, Tom Thibodeau chemistry is just like the greatest duo of all time.
What team was that? 2012.
I think 2011. But again, as we close out, I just want to say another thing. Like again, that like everyone like those Bulls weren't like Tibbs did a good job, but like I looked at the roster turnover the other day, like that Bulls team was stacked, dude. Like that had like 2 starting lineups. Like the bench mob. Like again, Tibbs deserves credit, but that team like was not. Like, he didn't single-handedly improve that team by 20 wins. Like that was a good ass team.
Here when they were the 1 seed, Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah, Taj Gibson, Luol Deng, Jimmy Butler, Carlos Boozer, Ronnie Brewer, Mike James, Kyle Korver, C.J. Watson. Like I guess, but like.
Omer Oshik and Kurt Thomas. Like I'm just saying that it's 10 like solid rotation. It's 10 to 11 solid rotational players. Like
I have to close.
All right.
You're right though. You're right. You finished.
That's my point. Tibbs is good with good teams and has been, but like we just haven't seen him take a situation like this. And his most recent one with better talent, he fits. That's why I'm concerned. But hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully Frank becomes Derrick Rose.
This was our big Tibbs episode, and now I think we've closed it out pretty well.
Yeah, I'll never talk about Tibbs again
until he's our coach and we hear from him.
Well, yeah, the press conference is like going to come out as we post this episode. Then I'm going to be invigorated again. I mean, he says smart things in his talks. Like,
wait, is the press conference today?
It's probably going to be like tomorrow or Friday. The Popper was saying.
True. Like, okay, I gotta go, but there we go. Hopefully some of you out there I swayed a little bit on Tibbs, and the rest can be part of your emboldened anti-Tibbs group. My computer's at 1% anyway, so I'm ending this call right now. Okay.
All right, peace.